Repairing a 5-inch gauge Modelworks Pannier tank, part 6, making a handle for the hand pump using a piece of stainless steel, and machining a collar for the brake shaft, fitting the collar and repairing the brake gear. I'm using stainless steel for the pump handle for obvious reasons. If I make it from mild steel, it will go rusty. Here I'm testing the piece of stainless steel using a magnet. It sticks to the chuck, but will not stick to the piece of stainless steel. Over now to my Boxford lathe. With the roughly sawn piece of stainless steel in the chuck, the first part of the job is to face across the front. This stainless steel appears to be quite hard, but it does machine okay. I'll see what it's like when I start to machine it down to a thinner diameter. What I'm doing now is rounding the end of the piece of stainless steel. This will form the handle. This job is entirely freehand. It's a bit like using an old Etch-a-Sketch where you turn two knobs together in synchronicity. Here I'm initially finishing off the end using a file. I'll be using emery cloth later on. Now comes the more difficult part. After shaping one end, I turn the part around in the chuck and centre drill the end. Here I'm fitting a live centre in place. Initially I started the turning operation using a round nose tool. And I would just like to mention before lots of experts write in, this is a tutorial, so I'm showing that a round nose tool in this application is not perfect. Also, this large negative rake carbide tip tool isn't good either. To get a successful cut, I'm having to apply too much side pressure, and in the middle of the bar it starts to bend and moves away from the cutting tool. I think the best way to do it is to use a smaller tool with a finer point. Currently though, I do not have one of those set up in the tool holder for the Boxford. Once I'd finished the turning operation, it didn't look too good, but I thought it will be okay for what it is. It's as good as a lot of the machining on the engine itself. And I didn't make that. After cleaning up the job using a piece of emery cloth, once again I turned the handle round in the chuck, and now I'm using a knurling tool to make the handle easier to grip so you don't drop it on the floor. I didn't bother with over finishing this. It's just a piece of stainless steel shaped to be a handle for the hand pump, and it fits perfectly. It wasn't even on the list of things to do, and neither was this, but it needed doing. I'm making a collar for the brake shaft, because at the moment the brake shaft does not have a collar, so as you unwind it, it comes up out of the column. This is a piece of mild steel, and I've roughly faced across the front. Now I'm reducing it to the diameter that I need it to be. I don't know what the diameter is, I'm just doing this freehand. It looks okay, so it will be okay. As I've mentioned in these videos many times before, I am not a machinist and I've never had any training. Many years ago I read as many model engineer articles from the pen of LBSC, and that seemed to be a good way to do things. I also read old books about metalworking, and when I got my first lathe I tried to apply it, but really I taught myself. I just reduced a lot of metal to swarf and learnt by my own mistakes. After parting off the collar, I turned it round in the chuck to clean up the end. And I did this to both sides of the collar. And now, being extremely incompetent in the camera focus part of the job, using a centre drill without any measurement whatsoever, I accurately drill a pilot hole in the collar, followed by drilling it all the way through, including the other side. Once I drilled the hole through both sides of the collar, I then threaded the hole in both sides of the collar. I finished the job off with the second tap on the bench. This type of tap is of the spiral flute type, and I ended up with a really good 4BA thread through both of the holes. The next thing to do was to shorten two 4BA bolts. And here, to demonstrate the principle, I'm tightening the bolts to hold the collar firmly onto the shaft. Then I slackened off the bolts and removed the collar from the shaft, fitted the shaft into the brake column, and now once again it's time to turn the locomotive on its side. Here it is, firmly supported by a lot of bubble wrap. This shot was difficult to obtain, but finally I got the collar in focus, and here you can see it fixed in position with the two bolts. Now all I need to do is screw the brake shaft into the die block in the lever that operates the brakes, but this is no good because it's not clamped to the shaft. All the nuts and bolts on this engine are metric, and I found a suitable M6 caphead bolt which fitted the thread. I needed to put a cloth underneath the bolt because I'm going to cut it. And as I'm in the smaller of my two workshops owing to lack of space in the main one, I'm using a Proxxon motor tool fitted with a cutting disc to chop the bolt into two pieces. After doing this, I let the parts cool because they were very hot. I removed this piece of the bolt and fitted it instead with the part that had chopped off, the one with the Allen cap head. Once I tightened this bolt, it firmly held the drop arm to the brake shaft. While I was doing this job, I noticed that a very small Allen grub screw was on the bench, and here I'm putting it back where it's supposed to go. The final part of the brake job was to refit the pin as shown here. I think it's time to have a look at the checklist and mark off what's been done. I did nothing to the fusible plug because that was okay. I need to fit the lubricator delivery pipe, and then the job is complete. At this point I asked myself, why was the oil delivery pipe not in place to start with? Why was it removed from the locomotive and where had it gone? I will show how I make a new oil delivery pipe in the next episode. But that's it for now. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.